The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Miami Hurricanes land a blue-chip, versatile wide receiver to add to that class of 2026.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes.
Miami is moving on up in the class of 2026, higher into that top 10. We'll scout the newest Miami Hurricanes verbal commit, but in landing Samori Wingo, as we are joined here by the recruiting overlord, Brian Smith from the Portal Podcast on Locked On. It's nice, Brian, because it had been a little while since Mario Cristobal stuffed Billy Napier into that locker. But he's getting comfortable in that locker again because in recent months, I had seen, 24/7 crystal balls on 3 predictions for Florida to land Wingo after official visit season. South Carolina is the other school that Miami beat in this recruitment. Maybe there had been some South Carolina trends. And in the case of Wingo, so he visited Miami officially back on the weekend of May 30th, which was the first OV weekend. And I had heard significant amount of Wingo buzz like before his visit, and then after his visit, things got very quiet. So I think this was an instance of Mario Cristobal's loafers kind of working in silence and Kevin Beard working behind the scenes, because ultimately, a couple days ago, it seemed like Wingo was Gator bound, Brian, and he ends up picking the U.
That's what we all assumed. I'd spoken with Brandon Olson. Florida felt pretty good about it. When we discussed receiver recruiting in Miami the other day, like Wingo wasn't really a topic. And here we are. So that just shows you how quickly recruiting can change in a very, very short period of time. But this is a really good football player. I'm anxious to talk about him. Miami needed bigger receivers. They needed some depth there. They got a little of both in this class. So they're off to a very good start in this class, and it's probably top 10 by pretty much any measurement now.
Yeah, Wingo, by the way, he measures at 6'2", 180-pound receiver. He's from St. Augustine, Florida, so just outside that Jacksonville area. You look at Brian, his stats as a junior in high school last season. He catches 65 passes for over 1,000 yards, and actually one of his best games was against American Heritage. So you talk about top South Florida competition. He had against Heritage 140 receiving yards, including an 80-yard touchdown. And I'm told about Wingo because Miami, of course, as every program should be these days, is really big on in-person scouting. Like it's not just about the films and the measurables. So Wingo performed at a camp July of 2024, also a camp that Malachi Toney was in and some other top players. And I'm told Kevin Beard, Mario Cristobal, and company were like really impressed by the in-person scouting of Wingo. So tell me a little bit more, as this is a player I'm sure you've scouted over the years.
Length. That's one of the very first things I notice. He can make catches that others can't because he's so long, and he's really good at making 50-50 catches, pulling it in away from his body like he just snags it. Got big hands. And he's also a kid that, despite the way he's built, he's got a little bit of a Michael Irvin frame, like early in his career, really long kid. Michael ended up playing at 215, something like that once he got to the Cowboys. But Wingo's a guy that'll play at 200 pounds at Miami. He's pretty thin right now, but strong, like really wiry strong. Screens, short passes. The first guy rarely brings down Samori Wingo. That's one of the best traits about him, because a lot of receivers, they're fast or they're twitchy. They don't have a lot of physicality. Wingo's both. He makes first guy miss a lot, but if he needs to plow through or, you're only going to get a few more yards, he's a guy that plays more like a running back. And then finally, he does have the ability to go deep. That's the key with anything in college football today in the passing game. If you don't have the ability to throw over the top, teams will adjust to you. He can give you a home run threat.
Yeah, and on that note, I think you're spot on, because some of the feedback, I've been trying to get feedback this afternoon from the Miami staff about Wingo, and I'm told something that Kevin Beard and Shannon Dawson really like about him is his versatility, that he's got the wiggle and the attributes to play inside in the slot, but he's also capable of playing on the outside. And so, because you never know. I mean, Miami's got one of the best slots in the country currently committed in Vance Spafford. But to have a guy like Wingo, and I think someone else who possesses this versatility is Nye Carr, who's on Miami right now, can play inside or out. But there's a lot of value on that, right, Brian? The fact that with Samori and Wingo, you're going to have options to be able to play him at multiple spots in Miami's receiving corps.
Depending on what they're trying to do or who's healthy situationally, maybe he's your big slot. In a year or so, he'll weigh 200 pounds. There are a lot of guys like that in college football. Texas has done it, Penn State, Notre Dame. Everybody uses different players in different spots. Wingo could play different roles. He could be your flanker. Maybe he plays some boundary. But most importantly, he's just a guy that catches the football and moves the chains. So his offer list was really good for a reason. And Miami keeps another in-state. They're actually doing a really good job this year, just overall keeping players in state. They've got more than 10 from the state of Florida. Wingo adds another.
All right, so and so he joins now. He's the third receiver committed in Miami's class of 2026. And another thing that I think Miami likes is that these guys all complement each other. Vance Spafford, who is your, more seemingly pure slot, but he's got that crazy speed. Tyron Evans, who's got a lot of size, being like the 6'4", 6'5" type of body type. And now Wingo, who's a little bit more of a chameleon. So is that, to you, Brian, you look at that receiver class and maybe that's the end of it, or maybe there could be another player they add to that class before it's all said and done. But do you think that the three that they have so far check off multiple boxes?
Well, you could play them as a unit because Wingo could play the outside flanker spot. Obviously, Spafford would be your interior guy at the slot position, and then your boundary kid to get from North Carolina. So it's a complete class. You added more size, which probably was Miami's biggest need in this class. They get that. And then Spafford's a kid I've seen play multiple times. He's just absolutely electric. He might be the best overall player in the class, not named Jackson Cantwell. So they're at a pretty good spot. Like I'll take Cantwell over anybody. But this is the kind of class you expect out of Miami at wide receiver.
Yeah.
It's balanced. They've gained a lot of quickness, like Malachi Tony, great player, but he's smaller. You need guys to complement those kinds of players. I think that Miami, in a 2-year grouping, like if you look at the 25, now the 26 group put together, it's really good. And you got guys that can play a lot of different roles. So Miami's in a good spot.
When we come back, we'll talk about where Miami's class of 2026 now ranks. Been hanging around that top 10 for most of the process, and they do move up a spot with this move. Got the recruiting overlord, Brian Smith, with us. Got a new Miami Hurricanes. Samori and Wingo, welcome to the family. You got recruiting, players coming off the board left and right, flips taking place. Texas seems to be landing everybody from recruiting to NIL to transfer portal. Brian Smith has you covered on the Portal podcast. It's part of the Locked On family. It's available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So another thing to note about Samori and Wingo, 4-star wide receiver who, by the way, if I look at his rankings in the class, he is the, I think, 23rd rated receiver in the class of 2026. He's the 160th rated player overall in the class, which is pretty good. 23rd ranked receiver, 22nd rated player in the state of Florida, according to the 24/7 composite. He's also got a multi-sport background. Now, he's not going to, try to play on the basketball team or anything, I don't think, but he is a really good basketball player, all region, scored 16.6 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists per game, also runs track. He's a 400 runner, but football is going to be the focus for him, Brian, at the college level. And so, with this addition, Miami moves up. They were 10th in the 24/7 composite before landing Samori and Wingo. And this, you define this player as a needle mover because, adding one additional player has moved Miami up a spot. They move in front of Michigan for the number 9 class in the country. And you mentioned, Brian, this does feel like a top 10 class at the moment. Do you think Miami will finish with a top 10, maybe borderline top 5 type of class?
Well, now the question is, do they get Derek Cooper? Do they add anybody else that they've gone after and flip anybody? We'll find out on Cooper in a few days, so I'll just let him announce to figure that out. But the bigger question, do they keep their kids they got committed, Jordan Campbell in particular, and can they flip somebody? Mario is pretty notorious for finding that one guy, maybe 2. during the season that they flip. If Miami has a good season, they could be another team that just, even if it's just one or two guys, that can be the difference between number 10 and like number 6. So they're in position to be in the top 10 pretty comfortably, but if they can flip a couple of players, Alex, they could find themselves at least close to that top 5 group.
You hearing anything new on Tristan Keys, who's been committed since March to LSU, a top receiver in the class? Obviously, Miami has been one of those teams in the conversation, right? Tennessee has been in that conversation, a few others, Miami trying to flip him. What do you think folks on the LSU side, are they feeling confident they're going to lock him in, or do you think he flips somewhere?
The LSU side, from what little I've gathered from one source, is, this is a long drawn out deal. Yeah. Don't put a lot of stock on any one report. This is a long process. The NIL situation with Adidas and everything else, like there's a lot of different things going on. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but Miami got 3 visits this spring.
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. If you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deals, Gametime's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. And with Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
We're joined by the great Jordan Rodgers of ESPN, here to talk Oklahoma football with us. Jordan, thanks for taking the time. You had John Mateer number 4 in your SEC quarterback rankings for 2025. Talk about what Mateer brings to the table and what's got you so excited about him.
I love him. And me and Greg McElroy actually sat next to each other doing our quarterback rankings, and we hadn't shared them before. He had Mateer as 1. Yeah. And I had FOMO because I was like, I wanted to rank him higher. I was a little nervous. Right. I loved, that was my favorite film to flip on and watch. And I just didn't know what to expect, right? Because he's a little bit undersized, put up a ton of numbers at Washington State. When I flipped on the tape, I saw a kid that was elite at making throws off platform, at creating and making something out of nothing. And I think that's a lot of times that's what makes the best quarterbacks the best, right? Because everybody's got talent. Everybody can hit the hitch out there if it's wide open. But can you create tight window throws? Can you push the ball downfield? I think what's going to be best for Oklahoma, and one of the weaknesses last year was pushing the ball vertical. Yeah. They couldn't hit a deep shot to save their life. Right. And when I flip on the film, Mateer has a knack for what we call just changing the trajectory of his deep throws. Okay. So when a receiver wins really quick on the line of scrimmage, you don't want to throw one of those deep high arcers because then you're going to let the DB regain his, close the distance and make a play on it. So he does a great job of throwing sometimes low trajectory deep balls, high trajectory deep balls, fitting balls in windows and around guys that you just shouldn't be able to make throws like that. And also, we just saw Diego Pavia last year bring his offensive coordinator, Tim Beck, and light the SEC on fire to start the first half of the season. So I love that Ben Arbuckle is with him. You have a unique chance to not have to worry about the system, but you can worry about the guys. Most of the time, a new quarterback's worried about, I got to figure out the system, and then I got to figure out my guys, right? He knows the system, so he can lead and start to create that chemistry a lot faster.
Yeah, now that's going to be my question. Yeah. What is the chances you feel like John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle can repeat kind of what Diego Pavia and Tim Beck did, especially because, like you said, they brought the coordinator with the quarterback, and so the system itself is going to be easy for them to be able to teach to everybody, especially when the main guy knows it. But from there, you talked about the offensive line in one of your videos and the way they were shifting things. How do you think this offensive line, how critical is this offensive line now that it's got experience for John Mateer and for Jaden Ott, who's the running back they picked up to go along with them?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, think about it. Anytime you have an offense that and they're not like super heavy on RPO, but they're going to have some RPOs. You got to be able to run the football. Oklahoma couldn't run the football last year. It was a spread RPO system. What's the first letter? R. What's that for? Run.
You got to run it.
You got to be able to threaten the run
Yeah.
first. They couldn't do it. I was looking up numbers like Tennessee game. They had like 34 rushes for 36 yards.
It's terrible.
And one of the other SEC games, they averaged like 1.2 yards per rush. Like you can't operate like that, right? So the offensive line is super critical. I think one of my biggest criticisms last year as well was maybe not as much the Jimmies and Joes, but the scheme. So many times we flipped on the film and you got a tight end trying to block a defensive end.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Sound like us.
You just so now the reason you do that, or reason that happens, is not because Joe John didn't know what he was doing, but it's because you're trying to take something off the quarterback's plate, right? So if he's not if you've got a quarterback that's struggling, as Jackson was, you don't want him thinking about every protection and then trying to figure out, okay, now what am I going to do? So sometimes you're in a non-advantageous situation. Now you got Mateer, who knows this offense inside and out. You're not going to get put in spots like that. You're not going to put the offensive line in bad spots because he's going to know the protection, know how to adjust it if the defense overloads or shows blitz. So I think the offensive line by design and by scheme is going to be much better, let alone they got so many guys that played last year. The experience is great for them. I mean, that's going to be a boost for them as well.
So thinking of Ben Arbuckle's offense, what can Oklahoma fans expect?
Yeah, they love to spread you out. So they love to go 4 wide, 5 wide, overload, bunches. They like to really stress the defense pre-snap. And what that does for a quarterback, I love that, it spreads them out. And when you spread the defense out, they can't hide things anymore. You can't have safeties that are rolling. You can't have corners that are trying to split or show blitz or do this. Like, it tells you the answers before you even have to snap the ball. So just by design, the formations, the spread, the way they spread you out, it's going to give John Mateer just a little bit of an advantage pre-snap and knowing what's going to happen with the defense. So in a way, not really similar in structure to Tennessee, but Tennessee goes sideline to sideline so much it stresses the defense. Right. They're not a Tennessee offense, but in a way they love to spread you out. And what that does gives Mateer and his athleticism the ability to make plays when things break down.
When you were watching the tape, how did you see Ben Arbuckle leveraging the tight end? As you know, we've struggled with tight ends. We've got a whole new influx of them. But when you watch the tape on it, did Ben Arbuckle really use the tight end much to be able to force like more linebackers or something on the field? Or how did you see that offense running in that capacity?
That's a good question. I don't know if I actually have an answer for that. Okay. I'm not sure that I remember or that it stands out how much the tight end was used, but I guess the benefit of bringing your offense is you can make subtle adjustments to it. If you're installing an entire new offense to a brand new set of players, right, you got to start with the base and build from there. Well, when you got the base with this quarterback already installed, you're able to install it quicker. Now you can start to adjust the scheme and what you do. I think tight ends is going to be extremely important for Oklahoma. They're extremely important in this conference, in football in general. The reason we're seeing the resurgence of the tight end is because everybody went spread tempo. And when every offense went spread tempo and was 4 wide receivers, no tight ends on the field, the defense got smaller and faster, right? So instead of big 230-pound linebackers, now you got 215-pound nickels that also play in the box. Okay, now put a tight end on that dude. Now he can block that dude. So football is cyclical. Right. Like I said, I don't know if the tight end stood out as much at Washington State as maybe I think it will be a part or integral part of what they're going to do at Oklahoma.
And as you look at Oklahoma's defense, bringing back a lot of experience, yes, they lose Danny Stutzman, they lose Billy Bowman, but what do you think is the potential for this group going into 2025, knowing that, hey, they still got a lot of big-time playmakers on this team?
Yeah, the thing I love, similar, we were talking about the Vandy effect on the offensive side of the ball. Well, Clark Lee took over play-calling duties last year for Vandy, went back to what he does best as a defensive coordinator. And so when Venables is taken back over that reins, the attention to detail in every aspect of what he does, that's what got him the job. He's one of the best play callers in the country. And so he got a head coaching job. So I think by merit of details, this defense is going to be much better because they have to be.
Yeah.
Venables' job is on the line, and that's why he's taken over the role of defensive coordinator.
Right.
So I think they're going to be, yes, they're missing big pieces, but they still have a lot of, I think, talent, especially in the secondary guys that played last year. Bowen's the corner's name, right?
Yeah, Eli Bowen.
What's I'm forgetting the safety's name.
Robert Spears-Jennings?
Spears-Jennings is a baller.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I flip on the tape and watched Billy Bowman, and how talented, Spears-Jennings just kept popping every time. I had a couple Arkansas games last year, I think, too. I was just so impressed with his ability to get down to the first level, second level, make plays. So I think they still got plenty of talent.
Yeah, a ton of talent on this defense. You're actually going to get to hear from Robert Spears Jennings at SEC Media Days today, and we're going to have an interview with him ourselves here on Locked On Sooners. Special thanks to Jordan Rodgers for joining us here on Locked On Sooners and breaking down everything with John Mateer, Ben Arbuckle's offense. Make sure you go check out his work on ESPN, getting you ready for the 2025 college football season.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Will Brian Kelly and LSU finally break through?
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, joining us here at SEC Football Media Days. Thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks.
You're an LSU alum doing an SEC podcast. Do you find it hard not to be an unapologetic homer at times?
You know, it's funny you bring that up. The more and more I cover the league now, I've been doing Locked On 5 years now, and you know, I'm a fan of the league. I'm a fan of other teams. I do get a little bit more detached. I mean, look, on a football Saturday when LSU's playing, I'm rooting like hell for LSU. But, you know, and even in Omaha, I found myself, if Arkansas was going to beat LSU, I wanted Dave Van Horn to win a title. I thought that would have been a great story. But, again, it's just,
I don't want any good things for anybody in the SEC except LSU.
I get it. I get it for you. I just, you know, look, there's a lot of people out there that still do the conference dominance thing, still like to beat their chest when good things happen for SEC teams. And I thought it would have been cool to say, well, it would have been 6 straight years of a different SEC team winning it. What's more conference dominance than that?
Yeah, I don't care. I'm just glad LSU won it. Okay, what did you come into this week? We all have preconceived notions. You leave the week and you learn something. What is your takeaway?
Yeah, I was blown away by Brian Kelly and LSU. And look, we knew what they had coming back, but I think he used the word championship 12 times the other day in his press conference. He was, you know, he understands what the expectations are. This is year 4. And obviously the track record of Saban winning a title, Les winning a title, Ogeron winning a title, like he understands the pressure that's there. And the LSU fan skepticism, if he does not get them to the playoffs this year, it will be a massive disappointment. And, you know, firing, buyout, all that kind of talk will start coming up. So, yeah, look, expectations are high, but at least Brian Kelly's embracing it. He's not pulling a Hugh Freeze going, yeah, we're just trying to get to a bowl game, man. Like, Hugh Freeze, shut up. Like, it's so stupid. You were brought there to try to win a title, not to get to 6-6. But, yeah, look, man, I mean, as fun as it is having LSU occasionally come to my backyard in Houston and play in the Texas Bowl, the LSU's supposed to be better than the Texas Bowl. I'm sorry.
But don't be sorry. So I think my takeaway this week is that I think I kind of like Texas A&M.
Yep.
More than, you know, an 8-5 team that they were a year ago. Should I?
Well, look, they were off to such a strong start last year. Elko is a hard-nosed, blue-collar coach. I'll tell you this. I got to talk to him on the coaching trail last year in Houston. You know, when Jimbo Fisher would go do recruiting trips, first off, he stopped doing recruiting trips. A lot of high school coaches across Texas said Jimbo hadn't been on their campus in 2 years. So he wasn't doing that. Elko drives this big black pickup truck. He literally pulls up on high school campuses and gets out, and just blue collar. Like, I mean, he gets out, he drives himself. He doesn't have anybody else with him, and he's doing these visits and recruiting kids. So he has brought that mentality back to A&M. Defense was really strong last year, and the run game. And I think the run game is going to be really good again this year. I said to you earlier, I think A&M is going to lead the SEC in rushing because of that three-headed attack they have of Lavian Moss, Amari Daniels, and Ruben Owens, who was this big 5-star recruit out of the Houston area that got hurt before last season and came back at the back end of the season, still wasn't fully himself. But a lot of people thought he was going to jump those other two guys and be the bell cow
workhorse last year. So now to have all three of those guys and a really strong offensive line, the missing component was the passing game. Marcel Reed, I mean, they basically had like Terry Bussey and nobody else. They went out in the portal and they got some guys. They brought in Mario Craver from Mississippi State. They brought in Micah Hudson from Texas Tech, and that one flipped.
Right.
But Casey Concepcion from NC State they went and got. So they've got some pass-catching weapons now there for A&M. And as much as it pains me to say it, as you know, I know LSU fans hate A&M, and as much as they want to make it a rivalry, you know, they have not won in Death Valley since they joined the conference. Look, I hope that continues for LSU fans, but eventually they're going to win one. They just saw history says they're going to win one eventually, but that's a must win for LSU. But Elko and company, man, you can't ignore what they're doing. They're building something there in A&M.
Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, is with us. What about the other way? Like, there's probably a half dozen teams in the league that all think they're going to take a step. Florida, South Carolina, LSU, Bama probably thinks they'll get back to a playoff. Which team? There's just like, it's just not possible. Like, someone's going to throw up a 5-7 like Auburn did last year.
Yeah.
Who do you think is most likely the team that's going to be disappointed?
Well, first off, I love nothing more than a Bama is burning video from Matt Moscona. I mean, it's
you'll have more opportunities to see them this year.
I'm with you. 9-4 DeBoer. That's who he is. He's a good coach. Look, I said
is that better, or when I call him Kalen DeBose?
DeBose is great.
Which do you like? Which do you like better?
Caleb DeBoring the other day. He was a bore out there. You know, I bring this up all the time. Like Brett Bielema is a really good coach. Who, I mean, at Wisconsin, he was trucking. And then he comes to the SEC and falls flat on his face at Arkansas. What's he doing at Illinois right now? He's got them relevant again. Yeah. He's winning. So you can be a really good coach, but you're just not cut out for the SEC. I think that's Kalen DeBoer. I think he's a really good coach. Look, everybody puts too much stock, though, into, what do you have, 2 years at Fresno State and 2 years at Washington? And then they go, oh, but Sioux Falls. No, Sioux Falls, throw that out the window. I don't care what you did there. Tell me what you did at the FBS big-time, big boy football level. Look, he got Washington to a championship. Great. But outside of Michael Penix, I mean, what's he done to create a great quarterback? Jalen Milroe last season was on he's on the Heisman watch list. This guy could be a first-round pick, all this stuff. And what'd they do with him? Oh, it's his fault. It's Milroe's fault. No, I'm looking at the coach going, you didn't put that guy in the best, chance to succeed in the offense. We'll see what Ryan Grubb does there. Point being with Alabama is I think they'll be okay. I'm not buying into them as a national championship contender like everybody else is here. So
not everybody, because I don't.
But I don't think
9-3. They're a 9-3 program under Kalen DeBoer. It's what they are.
I don't think they're the 5-7 team. Look, I like Lenore Sellers, but that schedule at South Carolina is brutal. And they finally got a little bit more balance last year. When I was watching Spencer, I love Spencer Rattler, but he had no run game to help out. He was getting sacked like nobody's business. Last year they had a balance. They brought in Rocket Sanders. It made a world of difference. Right now they have a kid named Razul Faison who is still fighting to get eligibility. Apparently they still haven't officially cleared him. If they don't clear him, they don't have a lot of quality backs in that backfield. And so if that happens and it's just Lenore Sellers on an island out there and trying to run around, I don't know. I'm just saying South Carolina could be, everybody's buying in on them because they finished so strong last year and all that, and they're the sexy pick. Shane Beamer, good coach, but what about his track record says this is going to be a 10-2 playoff team this year? No, I think what's more likely for South Carolina, they fall back and it's a 6-6, 5-7 type season.
I think South Carolina and Florida are both 7-5 football teams. What do you think about the Gators?
Yeah, dude, I have a man crush on DJ Lagway. I mean, just standing next to the guy, he's got the smile, he's charming, he's huge.
Calm down, Gordon.
He's only going to get better.
Don't make it awkward.
I mean, he is a sexy man, but nonetheless, yeah. Look, it's Florida, and their schedule is always brutal. Billy Napier needs to, while he's here at Media Day, should have met with the front office or SEC office and said, "Can you guys help me out and get me some more Vanderbilts and Mississippi States on the schedule and stuff like that?" But yeah, look, again. Gators really good defensively. They bring back a bunch of guys on the front line. Caleb Banks is going to be really good. The receiver's really good. They bring back Trey Wilson, who's finally healthy. Dallas Wilson, their 5-star wide receiver they brought in. Did you see what he did in the spring game? He had 200 receiving yards. I get it's a spring game, but still, they're going to get that guy the football. And then J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA coming in. They got some pass catchers around them. But again, schedule is, what makes or break you. That's why I look at Ole Miss and Missouri and go, they may not be great, but their schedules are so navigatable. Yeah. 10-2 is doable for Mizzou and Ole Miss to get in as that fourth, SEC playoff team. Whereas I look at Florida and go, maybe they're a year away. If Lagway elevates, though, I mean, that could be I mean, dare I say, like, if you really want to go hot take, like, has a Manziel type season, maybe Florida's 10-2.